You're watching 13 WMAZ, straight from the heart.
Who says medical doctors seldom get involved in hot political issues? I'm Randall Savage, and this is Close Up. And joining us today is Dr. Miguel Faria, a medical professional who doesn't back away from controversial issues. Welcome to Close Up.
I am happy to be here, Randall.
You're a medical doctor who spent countless hours delving into politics, and one who caught the eye of former President Bush, and he made an appointment. What exactly did he have you doing?
Randall, it was a very interesting thing. As you remember, in 1996, I testified in Washington, D.C. To a congressional committee about, I was being very critical along with 5 other doctors and legal scholars because the CDC was pushing for gun control. They were publishing biased, politicized, result-oriented research with preordained conclusions that guns were bad, they needed to be eradicated. And shortly after that, Congress passed laws restricting how much the CDC could do as far as spending taxpayers' money for gun control research, and I thought that was wonderful. In addition to that, the public health establishment was banned from using taxpayers' money to lobby Congress, to have conferences pushing for gun control, and it's a very lasting victory for the people who believe in the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So years passed. So that was in 1996. These laws were passed, good things. And then in 2002, I get a call, and it's a staffer from George W. Bush White House asking me if I will serve in a committee. And lo and behold, it's a committee to supervise the CDC as to deciding if scientific research was to be funded by taxpayers' money.
I bet they were delighted to see you, huh?
No, I'm not sure they were, but some people were. Some people were because money was misspent, and I was a person that believed in the scientific process. And yes, it was ironic that after all these years, now I am supervising, serving in a committee supervising the CDC, specifically the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control that have to do with gun research, from injuries at home, in the workplace, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, while you were critical of the CDC's, what you call political activities, you have really supported them in other areas, haven't you?
Oh, yes. I am a staunch supporter of the CDC when it comes to epidemiological diseases, contagious diseases. I think the CDC has done wonders for science and medicine in the area of infectious diseases. And I have supported and continue to support the CDC in that regard. Where I draw the line is where research is being funded by the taxpayers, not for scientific purposes, but for political purposes such as gun control. And it was not only the public health establishment, even the AMA participated in this campaign, which at that time, you may remember, it was domestic violence. And they were pushing for gun control to gain public relations point. And I thought that was wrong.
And how long did you serve on that committee?
4 years.
4 years?
Yes.
Could you have stayed longer, or did you just say you've had enough of it?
I said I had enough. There were other things. I felt that we have straightened the CDC, in particularly the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. In fact, I think they are continuing to do a good job ever since. So I felt that I have done my job. I've done as much as I could, and there were other areas in which I developed an interest. For example, the crimes of Joseph Stalin in Russia, the crimes of communism, the evil things that have happened under the name of socialism. And I have been studying that, and I have published several papers on this regard.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're a Cuban refugee. How old were you when you came to America?
I was 13 years old, and it's very interesting. Here I am speaking about freedom of religion, and I have studied the Founding Fathers very carefully, and I see that the pendulum is swung too much to the left, pushing for a strict separation of church and state, pushing for the banishment of religion from public life, from schools, and I think this is wrong. This is not what the Founding Fathers intended. So I get into in another controversy, but it's because I feel that I want this country to remain free, being the source of freedom for the rest of the world. I come from a very political, nonconformist family in Cuba. My parents were in the Cuban Revolution. They were the heads of the underground in Cuba. We fought against Fulgencio Batista. And at the same time, when the country is 90% Catholic, my family was Presbyterian. And I grew up as a Presbyterian. So here I am, we're nonconformists, not only as to political reasons and fighting against a dictatorship, but we're also nonconformists in religion. I believe freedom of religion is essential for a free country.
And you have written some articles recently about that, and you trace, you talk about the First Amendment in that, and talk about Thomas Jefferson and some others. And you feel that there's no mention there at all about separation of church and state? No. The separation of church and state phraseology is not found in the Constitution, is not found in the Declaration of Independence, is not found in any of our Founding Fathers' documents. And as I said, we have swung too much to the left in that regard. We're bringing on more crime, more immorality, more illegitimacy, illiteracy, because we're separating so much from religious morality. The Founding Fathers knew, and they were very smart guys. They studied history. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor for this country. And they knew that religious morality supports the moral code. And if we're not gonna have a police state, then we need to have some religion. If we don't have religion, then more force is necessary by governments to control some people say control, or to make people behave the way they should behave. I'd rather that we have voluntary, religious, Judeo-Christian morality, rather than have a police state taking our liberties one by one in the name of establishing law and order. And I don't know if we have time, but the separation, the wall of separation... Actually, we're going to take a break, and we'll pick it up when we come back. We'll be right back with Close Up.
Law Call with host Annette St. Clair and personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds, selected by the authors of Best Lawyers in America, with more than $285 million awarded to his clients. Plus, guidance from the personal injury law firm of Reynolds, Horn, and Servant.
There are certain areas of the law that have a particular impact on moms. Divorce, child custody, child support. If you have a question about any area of family law, give us a call.
With no insurance, we needed cash.
I needed cash now.
So we took our car title to TitleMax.
So I took my car title to TitleMax. TitleMax turned my car title into cash.
With TitleMax, we won't have to sell our car.
My car title was my credit.
TitleMax charged us half as much as the other guys.
50% less.
Next time you need cash, take your car title to TitleMax. And you too will say,
I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
if you
don't shop 5-Star Chevrolet this week, you're backing up. Get ahead savings on Chevy's MPG Superstars. Compare new 2012 Cruze to Camry and Corolla. Get ahead with Cruze for thousands less. Cruze loaded, 15.6. More 2012 Camaro selection at Middle Georgia's GM Superstore. Get ahead price $21,900. Buy Equinox only $20,009. Credit backing up, we can help you get ahead at 5-Star Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC next to the base Warner Robins. Drive 5star.com.
We're back with Close Up, and our guest today is Dr. Miguel Faria, a medical doctor who is quite active in political activities. And prior to the break, you were talking about the First Amendment and freedom of religion, and you're thinking that it's, the government has gotten too intrusive. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I believe it's not only the government, Randall. I believe it's the hostility to Judeo-Christian religion permeates most aspects of society, academia, Hollywood, popular culture, politicians. And I think it's a misunderstanding of what the Founding Fathers intended. The Founding Fathers were a group of Christian men who understood that the foundations of a society are based on a code of morality. And what we inherited in Western civilization is a Judeo-Christian ethics superimposed on the Greco-Roman aspects of government. And those are the twin pillars of our civilization: the Greco-Roman form of government and the religious principles of a Judeo-Christian inheritance. And I think that we are banishing religion from public life, from schools, and then we wonder why we have so many gangs, why we have so much crime, why do we have so much...
You think that's cause and effect?
I don't think it's a direct. I don't think one follows exactly the other, but I think that if you have less religion, you have to have more police. I think there is, yes, I think there is an association. There is a definite association. All of this exclusion of religion, and I'm talking in particularly the Judeo-Christian religion, the exclusion from public life and from schools have a direct effect on increasing crime, in increasing illiteracy, increasing illegitimacy, single motherhood, teenage pregnancy. All of these things that I just mentioned, Randall, have tripled since the 1960s. That was at the same time that prayer was banned in public schools and that we began this war against Judeo-Christian religion.
Now, you've written some recent articles about that. What type of feedback are you getting from those articles?
Actually, I'm getting both positive and some negative. There was another article that was written in response to mine, and my article was published in GOP USA and in the Macon Telegraph. Mm-hmm. There were different versions of it. One was longer than the other, but interestingly enough, the version in GOP USA was mostly supportive, I guess because a lot of the people there tend to be Republicans. In the Macon Telegraph, I think was evenly divided between those who liked it and those who did not.
So you plan to keep pushing this?
Well, I think, I am in this society. I want to live at a better place than when I got here. This is my town where I live. I want, I don't want the United States to go the same direction as Cuba. My parents fought in the revolution, in the underground. We established a secular culture in Cuba. One of the first things and then when we realized that we had gone in the wrong direction in Cuba, it was too late. All of a sudden we had an atheistic socialist state in Cuba. That's not what my parents fought for, but that's what happened. The most radical elements took over. Fidel Castro and Raul Castro took over. Look what happened in Cuba. And what happened in Cuba by revolution, I see it happening here by evolution, step by step, a little bit at a time. And it is dangerous. My son went to college at William and Mary. The president of the university there banned a crucifix, the cross, the Christian cross, from the Christian chapel of William and Mary. That's insanity. This is the kind of things we're seeing. The pendulum is swung too much to the left, to the excessive banishment of religion, and I think that is not good for society, because when we get too much crime, when we get too much violence, gangs activity, what happens is the government then has to step in and pass more laws. And who are those who get more affected, who become more affected by those laws that impinge on our freedom? It's the law-abiding people. The criminals don't obey the laws. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. They're criminals. So we lose our freedom as we become more secular. It's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle.
And speaking of losses of things, you're pretty much supporting the Second Amendment to the Constitution.
I believe
and
that.
You've had some pretty strong opinions on guns,
yes.
gun control. What came about to shape your opinion on that?
Again, I have to go to some of my experiences in Cuba. In Cuba, Fulgencio Batista, the dictator that we fought, that my family fought, had registered guns. But he allowed citizens to have the gun. He just registered them. When Fidel Castro took over, he and Raul went over, all over the island, his henchmen, the militia, interestingly named the militia, went to each one of the city halls, and they went through those through the registration list, and then they went door to door, and they confiscated the guns that belonged to the people. The people were disarmed in Cuba. That's why 50 years have passed. We have a country that was 90% ardent Catholic. 50 years have passed. The people have lost their religion. At least they hide it. I don't believe that it's dead. I believe they have been able to, they have to do what they have to do to survive. But because they didn't have guns, a communist dictatorship has lasted 50 years. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Cuban communism, 90 miles from our shore, persists because the people were disarmed.
And you think if they had arms, they could put down?
I think that if the Cuban people had been armed, did you know, we talk about the Cuban Revolution in quite a lot of detail, and I know you have read my book, Cuban Revolution, but more freedom fighters lost their lives fighting a war against the communists in Cuba from 1960 to 1966 than were killed in the revolution.
Okay, we got to take another short break, and we'll be back with Close Up.
CBS Tonight. Only 4 teams remain.
I'm not going to die doing this, am I?
In the knockdown. Drag out.
Slow down.
Amazing Race season finale. And for the first time ever, the finish line is not the end of the race.
I hate you right now!
Don't miss the season finale of The Amazing Race. CBS Tonight.
New 2012 Nissan Altimas, $16,995. During the 5-star Nissan Altima 150. 150 Altimas to choose from. 150 must be sold. You can buy new 2012 Nissan Altima, $16,995 now. No need to compare. 5-star Nissan is where you can buy the $16,995 Altima now. Don't let credit problems keep you away. 5-star can help you today. 5-star Nissan. Highway 96 at Houston Lake Road, Warner Robins. Try 5star.com.
Stay connected to what's happening at 13WMAZ.com.
13WMAZ.com is a great all-day source for local weather, featuring your video forecast updated several times a day. Access to multiple radars, including our interactive radar that allows you to take control and zoom in and out to specific locations. And when severe weather threatens, we live stream our coverage as it's happening on TV.
More news, more video, more often. 13WMAZ.com.
We're back with Close Up, and our guest today is Dr. Miguel Ferreira. He's a political activist, and we're talking about gun control. You've been what some would call very adamant on your stance about that, and some fellow physicians have called you the gun loon doctor. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a blogger, and that blogger is somewhere in Great Britain. I have ignored him. Somebody who doesn't even put his name or who he is and has slandered me on the web, well, you know, what can you say? I ignored him. But that is the only person I know that has done that.
That wasn't a physician?
I don't know who he is. He's some guy in Great Britain, and I don't know who he is.
So you just ignore it?
Yeah, I just ignore him. If anybody don't have the courage to face me in a public forum, then and he doesn't even show his name, how can I respond? So as an anonymous person, I don't know that he's a physician. He said, I remember one of the quotes, when he lost an argument, I'd been to that website one time and I saw it, and there was somebody who posted being critical of what he was saying about me, and he said, man, guns are bad, period. That's how he ended the argument with the fellow who was defending me. So I don't need to get into that.
You have worked with a publication called the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons.
Yes.
And what prompted you to do that?
They are a conservative group of doctors. Actually, there is an interesting mix of doctors. They are physicians, surgeons, and internists, and every type of specialty is represented. But they tend to be conservative or libertarians, which is an interesting mix. Mm-hmm. I founded the journal, the Medical Sentinel, for them. Mm-hmm. And I ran that journal from 1996 to 2002. And they now have gone into more clinical articles. And at that point, my interests again changed. I do things for fun. And when I don't, I'm not enjoying it anymore, because they changed from socioeconomics and politics to clinical medicine. And they were taking a stance in clinical medicine that I did not necessarily agree with. It was a direction that I didn't want to pursue, so I stepped down in 2002, and they made me a editor emeritus of their new journal, but I have not been contributing.
Yeah, so you're not affiliated with them at the present time?
Not really.
And
but they are a good group of doctors. They are doing the right thing. They are opposing Obamacare. I also oppose Obamacare. So even though I'm not working with them...
You oppose the whole thing or just parts of it?
I oppose most of it.
Most of it?
Most of it. Especially, I find that the mandates for American citizens to buy insurance compulsory and they would be fined if they don't buy insurance. I think it goes against the nature of our country. It goes against the free market. It goes against freedom. Why do the Democrats everything they do have to be based on compulsion? See, I disagree.
What you're saying there is at the very heart of what the U.S. Supreme Court is considering now, isn't it?
Exactly. That's at the heart of what the Supreme... And by the way, I have an article also on my website that discusses the constitutionality of Obamacare as well as the politics, how that legislation was passed.
And we should get an answer from the Supreme Court, I guess, in June.
In June, and I believe that it's going to be the most egregious aspects of that law are going to be dismantled.
It's been said that one of your publications is that it's waging a war on science and evidence-based medicine in the name of politics. What do you think about that?
I think you're referring to a Wikipedia blog, but I'll tell you right up front, the apps, the organization you were asking me about, that's what they're talking about.
Right,
The apps. They are a conservative organization, and they also have a wing of doctors in that organization that are very libertarian. And frankly, libertarians sometimes go on a tangent, on many tangents, and that they open themselves to very severe criticism. And I think that's what you're referring to.
Would it be the libertarian group of that said that it took a stand against fluoridation?
Oh, see, now that is a specific topic that I knew the organization wanted to pursue, and I disagree with them. That's one of the things. There were several takeoffs on clinical medicine that the organization pursued that I disagree with. And as soon as I saw that I thought I needed to step down because I wasn't going to carry that baton that I didn't believe in. And that's one of them.
So you support fluoridation of the water then?
Yes, I do.
And was it the libertarian branch of this group
I think that
about
was
the autism, about vaccination causing autism?
Actually, that was both the conservatives and libertarians agree with that. My position on autism is that we still don't know enough about it. That is, there may be an association with vaccines, but I wasn't sure. And I think some people wanted to publish articles and that were not, in my opinion, completely written on a scientific basis. And there was much discussion about this, but that is the direction that some people in the organization wanted to take that I did not pursue.
How about the thing about illegal aliens bringing the plague and leprosy to the United States?
That was to me, that was an article that should not have been published. You done your homework very well. That is an article that should not have been published. And as soon as the criticism came back, which was serious criticism and valid criticism, I agree. It should have been withdrawn. It should have been recanted. And I don't know if they have done it or not. I think that report was incorrect because the data was truncated. It did not show the complete span of time that is necessary to conduct a successful research. You have to have follow-up. And I disagree with that article and the way it was handled.
We're almost out of time, but I believe you made a statement in one of your writings that all issues are politics.
I believe that in our age, everything goes down to politics, sadly. And one of the things we need to make sure is that science is not subordinated to politics or the state. So that I draw the line there. I think that science and religion both should be separated from the state. And because otherwise, we don't get research. That's what we were getting with gun control. That was not science. That was politics.
All right. It's good to have you back with us. And I'm Randall Savage. I'll see you next time on Close Up.
I enjoyed it, Randall.
Good to have you.